Good morning, Your Excellency, Ambassadors James Kimonyo. Welcome to CCG Ambassadors Dialogue.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here again.
I know you have been working and living in China for 5 years since you assumed office as ambassadors of Rwanda to China in 2091. And what's your impression of China?
Well, I have to say that when I came here in 2019, it was my first time to come to Asia and China in particular. But I can tell you it was beyond imagination, very impressive transformation that has happened in this country in many aspects of national life, whether it is infrastructure, whether it is education system, health system. It is, I mean, we travel through areas and see the cultural transformation, rural revitalization programs, people who have moved out of poverty within such a short period of time. It's really, really generally a very impressive place, and especially in terms of the journey that this country has traveled to become, the second largest economy, despite the difficult past. But I have to say that congratulations to the Chinese people, and I have to confess I've traveled across the world, and I have to admit that this country has done something unparalleled.
This year, China and Rwanda established diplomatic relations in 1971. It's more than 50 years now. What do you think about the bilateral relations between our two countries?
Rwanda and China both have enjoyed very warm, friendly relations. The last 52 years, especially the last 30 years, have been very important in our history, in our diplomatic relations, because we have seen growth in many areas of our bilateral cooperation. And just fast forward, if you look at, for instance, since after the visit of His Excellency President Xi Jinping in 2018, when he visited Rwanda, 15 bilateral cooperation agreements were signed in agriculture, in health, in infrastructure, in education, people-to-people exchanges. And from that time, now 5 years later, so many programs have been implemented. Hospitals have been built, roads have been built, hydropower plants have been built, school connectivity projects have been implemented. So we have seen a lot of progress, and apart from the physical infrastructure and the other programs that have been implemented under this bilateral cooperation, we see the increased interaction between our people. We have so many students in China, we have many Chinese in Rwanda working and living there, and because of that warm and friendly relations, we see a lot of transformation between our two countries based on that strong foundation of strong bilateral cooperation.
You're now known as a best spokesman for Rwanda's products because you participated in the live streaming shopping in China many times to promote Rwanda products. How do you think about the digital trade in the economic relations between our two countries?
It's very important to say that the digital economy is now a new frontier in terms of its contribution to global economy. And in this respect, China is leading the rest of the world in terms of technological innovation. And there is an increased economic value in the area of e-commerce. And this is thanks to so many technology platforms that have been created by Chinese companies to promote online transactions. And because this is a huge market, highly connected people, online sales are growing very, very fast. And in fact, if you recall during the pandemic, that's when now these tools were used even more, because people had no access to the usual shopping outlets. And so we thought the conventional way, classic way of doing business and promoting Rwandan products was not going to help us to reach out to the consumers and the buyers and the wider market, the wider Chinese market. So we decided that we were going to use technology platforms, and of course it was unheard of for an ambassador to go to live streaming. And the first one I did was in Hanju, I remember, in 2020, and it was very, very successful. So within seconds, we had sold all the coffees we had. And then we did the second live streaming. Within seconds, thousands of coffee packets were sold out. And that was an inspiration for us to do more. And because of that, as we speak today, so many people know Rwandan coffee. So many people are aware of Rwandan chili. In fact, every time we finish live streaming, we get a lot of calls and inquiries from different people, different buyers, different companies looking for Rwandan products. So you can see, if we were to wait for an expo, let's say CIE, which is very important, or KAET, which is very important in Changsha, that's fine. But you can't compare that with when you are on the platform that has 20 million people who are following a particular influencer. So that's a strategy we used, and it has worked very, very effectively, because that has increased the volumes of coffee and chili that are being sold from Rwanda to China. And that, of course, for us, we as government, we are very happy, because it's not about people who do business. It's about the ordinary citizens out there who toil every single day to produce coffee, to produce chili, who are getting better prices, because we are talking directly to the consumers. And so that's why we decided to join live streaming. And so sometimes I walk into a restaurant, or I'm flying and someone comes to me, what do you do? And then I keep quiet. And then they say, do you sell coffee? I say, yeah, sure. That's my business in China. I sell coffee. And they believe it. They think I'm here to sell coffee as a coffee businessman. But it's so exciting to see how this has generated impact in terms of the sales. And I think digital economy, the e-commerce, is something that we have to really continue working on. And remember, I have to give it a bit of background, because in 2018, when His Excellency President Xi visited Rwanda, one of the 15 bilateral cooperation agreements that were signed, one of them was e-commerce. And subsequent to that signing, Rwanda joined what Alibaba Group calls EWTP, which is the electronic world trade platform, whereby now Rwanda was able to put its products on electronic platforms. And so because of that, we've been able to use different platforms, Taobao, Douyin, Tmall, Hema Supermarket, and so on, to place our products in the shelf, because when you do live streaming, the consumers need to get the products the next day or even the same day. And in terms of building the capacity to develop e-commerce, the partnership between Rwanda, Alibaba Group, and the Zhejiang province, we have brought now close to 80 students from Rwanda who are studying cross-border trade and e-commerce, so that Rwanda is able to also go into that space, which is very important in terms of building or increasing our exports to China and sales across the world. So, and because of that, Rwanda also has developed infrastructure, technology infrastructure, to be able to accommodate such platforms. So that's why we thought live streaming and using tech platforms is going to be very significant very important for us as we enter in this huge market.
We know that after decades of the development, now Rwanda has become an economic hub in the African continent. But I think we know that Rwanda has happened about the genocide, and this year is the 30th anniversary. So I think we need to remember this day, what happened in history. Yeah. So could you talk about that?
Yeah, thank you very much. You are right, and we are doing this conversation when we are in a period that we are about to start the commemorative activities, events. Just to remind ourselves, in 1994, in April, the government then in power conspired to exterminate the section of the population, the Tutsi people, and 1 million People were killed, innocent civilians were killed in a genocide against Tutsi within a period of 3 months or 100 days. And it was a genocide which was planned, executed by the state, engineered all the killings using civilians, militias, to kill their fellow citizens. So in April is a time when Rwandans come together to remember and honor the victims, reflect on what went wrong, and think about how we can build a better future. We remember, we also have to think about how to renew our lives and come together to forge ahead the common identity and one country that is better for Rwandans and for humanity. So in that respect, we will be having a series of events. We call it Kwibuka. Kwibuka in Kinyarwanda in our language is remembering or remembrance. So we'll have the Kwibuka event before 7th of April, and 7th of April is when we do the official commemoration event, which will bring together the government officials from Chinese side, the diplomats and all friends of Rwanda to come and join us in the sober moment to remember the victims, but also talk about our journey and how we are going to continue building the better Rwanda. It is so sad to say that during the time when we were remembering 1 million people were killed, when everyone was watching, we still see similar events happening around the world. So this will be the time for us, our friends, for the whole world, because I have to emphasize the fact that this day, 7th of April, was also dedicated by the United Nations General Assembly to be an international day for reflection of genocide against the Tutsi, and the African Union also adopted the resolution to make it an Africa commemoration day for the same. The purpose of reminding ourselves as humanity that this kind of atrocities should not happen again, and try to work together to make sure that we prevent similar atrocities in the future. So that's basically what we'll be doing. And we are having a conversation with different people, and really particularly wanted to engage CCG because this is, I think, one of the top think tanks in China and across the world in terms of the value the organization brings in an international discourse on many subjects, on many global issues, geopolitical landscape, and so on. And being in China myself, I have always said the Chinese philosophy of non-aggression, non-interference, dialogue, the Global Security Initiative, the Global Civilization Initiative, these are the things that we should be talking about. Creating a strong multilateral system. Because had we put in place mechanisms to prevent such atrocities to happen, the genocide in Rwanda could not have happened. And maybe if it happened, maybe a few people were going to be killed, and maybe in between we have some interventions. Unfortunately, when genocide erupted and people started getting killed, the United Nations had received warning that there's going to be a genocide against the Tutsi. The conspiracy to murder was clear because the lists of people to be killed were drawn, people to be killed were identified, militias were trained, weapons were amassed, so preparations were in place, and the United Nations was informed. Even the few troops that were on the ground, the boots that were on the ground during the genocide, instead of reinforcing and stopping the genocide, they were withdrawn only to leave the victims at the mercy of their killers. So that shows the cracks and the gaps within the multilateral system. global governance institutions. And that's why I think the push from Chinese side to continue strengthening multilateral system, to build institutions, to have a conversation on global development initiative that brings together everyone for a shared future, to bring together all nations to have a global security initiative, to discuss global security in terms of global security initiative, and global civilization initiative, going back to our civilization so that we understand how we settle disputes without killing each other. And that is a conversation we want to have, and I think CCG sits in a better place to be able to convene such discussions so that we have a common understanding, if not a position, on how to deal with such similar catastrophes going forward. So this is a commemoration period. We remember, we honor the victims, but also think about the future and how collectively we can work together to prevent it from happening again.
Yes, you just talk about how to build a better future. I think the young generation is very important that they represent the future of each country. You know, the CCG initiated the Global Young Leader Dialogue program in 2021, which bring together the global young leaders to communicate and learn from each other. How can we enhance the communication between the Chinese and Rwanda's youth?
Thank you very much, and thank you for that question. And it's a great initiative. I want to applaud CCG for this initiative because even during the series of events that we're organizing during the commemoration, we have one event that's going to be focusing on the youth. Because we want the young Rwandans, and for that matter, the young people in the world, to be placed at the center of the discourse on how to build a better world. Because the future is theirs. If we have a conversation without them being part of that conversation, it is maybe going to be difficult to sustain or even succeed. So that's why I think bringing the youth at the center of the conversation so that they understand, have a reflection of the terrible past, have a conversation of negative narratives, have a conversation about the hate speech that we see around us that is likely to cause another disaster against humanity. So this initiative that CCG started, we think there are bridges that have already been built for our young people to connect and interact and have a discussion on how they can work together to build a better future. Because the Belt and Road Initiative is a very important initiative initiated by China a number of years ago, from 2013. And one of the pillars of this initiative is people-to-people exchange. Actually, that's the fourth pillar, very important. You have other pillars: infrastructure, connectivity, policy discourse, and financial inclusion. But the people-to-people exchange is very, very key. And this is has created the bridge, has built a bridge of bringing young Rwandans to China who come to study. They speak Chinese. We have Chinese young people who go to Rwanda to study our language. And because of that exchange, I think our work should be enhancing this interaction, increasing the number of Rwandans or Africans coming to China, increasing the number of young Chinese going to Africa, because not all of them are aware and they know Africa and where it is and what happens there. So once we increase that interaction, that is going to translate into other things, doing business together, sharing views on the future. So I think we can use this platform and the bridges that have been built by our two governments to bring more young people to have a dialogue, to have a conversation on common issues, but also start working together on many different development programs, whether it is business or education or research, innovation. I think that will bring them together, and they should be able to discuss how they work together to build a better future for them and for the entire world.
Thank you, Ambassador. It's a great pleasure to have you here on the CCG Ambassadors Dialogue Series. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah.